Hello and welcome to my channel Happy Hours. In the last video I discussed till the article number 28. Today I am going to proceed further with the article number 29 and 30, which are the cultural and educational rights, the constitutional remedies, its significance, different kinds of writs, part 4 of the constitution, the directive principle of the state policy and its classification. So let us proceed with the article number 29 and 30, which is the cultural and educational rights. These are also known as the minority rights. It is available only to the citizens. Minority. The word minority has not been defined in the constitution or in any document. Any population less than 50% of the total population, then they are termed as minority. It is a relative term. At the national level, government has recognized and accorded the minority status to the Muslims, Christians, Sikhs, Jains, Buddhists and Parsis. Article number 29, Clause 1 holds that any section of the citizens residing in the territory of India or any part of having a distinct language, script or culture of its own has the right to conserve the same. Here culture includes a separate religion also. Article number 30. It prescribes how a minority community can maintain its minority character. This is the only part of the constitution where minority word is mentioned. Now, article number 30, clause 1 holds that all minorities, whether based on religion or language, shall have the right to establish and administer educational institution of their choice. For the above mentioned article, the purpose of the minority group, they can enjoy the right to property. Under the article number 26, the religious denominations are also enjoy the right to property. But the basic difference between the right to property enjoyed under article number 26 and the article number 30 by the minority groups is that under article number 26 compensation is to be given, whereas under article number 30 due compensation is to be given. Article number 30, clause 2 holds that the state, in granting aid to the educational institutions, not to discriminate against any educational institution on the ground that it is under the management of a minority, whether based on religion or language. In other words, the state can provide aid to the minority educational institutions also. Now we are going to proceed further with the rights to constitutional remedies, article number 32. Article number 32, clause 1 empowers or gives the right to move the Supreme Court for the enforcement of the fundamental rights. Now we should understand first what is the significance or the importance of article number 32. It is true that the Declaration of Fundamental Rights is meaningless unless there is an effective machinery for the enforcement of these rights. It is the remedy which makes the right real. If there is no remedy, there is no right at all. Dr. Ambedkar had held that article number 32 was the fundamental of all the fundamental rights, without which all the fundamental rights are meaningless. For him, article number 32 was the soul and the heart of the constitution. The Supreme Court in the Ramesh Thapar versus State of Madras case 1950 held that it was because of the article number 32 that the Supreme Court should be declared as the protector or the guardian of fundamental rights. Now we are going to discuss about the article number 32, clause B. It empowers the Supreme Court to issue directions or order or writs for the enforcement of the fundamental rights. Writs, they are originated under the Roman law, but it is in practice in the British judicial system. That's why we are saying that the writs we have taken writs from the British judicial system. Not the definition of writs. It is a command of the court given in writing under its seal, directing or an authority or an organization to do or not to do certain things. Supreme Court has been empowered to issue five types of writs depending on the nature of violation of fundamental rights. There are five rights and these are as follows. First one is habeas corpus, second mandamus, third is writ of prohibition, fourth is certiorari, fifth is quo warranto. Now we are going to discuss each one of them one by one. The very first is habeas corpus, means to have the body. If a person is arrested but not been produced to the magistrate within 24 hours, any person related to that person can move to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court can issue habeas corpus, means it can ask the police to produce that person before the court. It is issued in the case of illegal detention or unlawful confinement. It can be issued to the state as well as to any individual. It is issued to protect the personal liberty of an individual. It is issued for the person is to be produced before the court. And if the court finds the arrest of the detention illegal, it may order the release of the person. Now we are going to proceed further with the mandamus. Mandamus, it literally means we command. It can be issued only to a government organization or to the government official. It cannot be issued to the private organization. It cannot be issued to the president or the governor of the state. This writ is in the form of command, directing an authority or the government official to do or not to do certain things as a part of its duty. Now we are going to discuss about the writ of prohibition. It is issued by the higher judiciary to the lower judiciary or a quasi-judiciary body. It cannot be issued by a non-judicial body. Quasi-judicial body means the tribunals. Examples are National Grain Tribunal, Income Tax Tribunals, Central Administrative Tribunals. It is issued in the case of lower judiciary or quasi-judicial body acting in the absence of jurisdiction or in excess of jurisdiction or for violation of the principle of natural justice. This writ is in the nature of prohibition, prohibiting the lower judiciary from further proceeding with the case. Next one is certiorari. It means we certified. This writ is exactly the same as the writ of prohibition in all aspects except that the prohibition is issued when the case is pending before the lower judiciary, whereas certiorari can be issued after the judgment has been given to declare it as null and void. Means the case, if you got the decision in the High Court, you can proceed to the Supreme Court. Now the last one is quo warranto. It means what is your authority. It is issued to a person holding public office to ascertain that whether the person is legally qualified to hold the office or not. Now we are going to understand the writ jurisdiction of the Supreme Court and the High Courts. The Supreme Court. Under the Article number 32, Clause 1, the Supreme Court can approach to issue writs only for the enforcement of the fundamental rights, whereas under Article number 2 to 6, the High Courts are authorized to issue the writs for the enforcement of fundamental rights as well as for the other purposes. Under Article number 32, the Supreme Court is bound to issue writs for the enforcement of the fundamental rights. Under Article number 226, the High Courts are not bound to issue writs. They may suggest other alternatives also. So we can say the Supreme Court has been declared as the guardian or the custodian of the fundamental rights. Now we are going to proceed further with the directive principles of the state policy, which is the part 4 of the Constitution. The directive principle of the state policy. These are the principles which direct the policies of the state. The objective of the directive principle is to establish a welfare state. A welfare state performs dual function. That is, the first one is the development function and the second one is the regulatory function. Now we should understand what is the welfare state and what are their duty. Welfare state is that state which has got a wider dimension, like roti, kapda and makan. It is going to provide, it is going to check that. Then the social justice, economic equality, minimum standard of health, minimum economic standard, these are the objectives of the welfare state. Or we can say the basic aim of the welfare state is to attainment of the substantial degree of social, economic, and political equalities to provide the means whereby all its members can reach minimum standard of economic security, civilized living, capacity to secure social status, and to keep good health. The welfare state, therefore, should take the positive measures to assist the community at large to achieve these objectives. Now we are going to proceed further with the classification of directive principle of state policy. The classification, we are having three classification: the socialist, the Gandhian and the Western liberal principles. The socialists are talking about two things. One is emancipation or the welfare of the workers, and the second one is the socio-economic equality. Let us discuss the first one, the socialist principle. The state to secure a social order for the promotion of the welfare of the people, which is under the article number 38. The citizens, women or men, equally have the right to get adequate means of livelihood, article number 39, clause A. The ownership and the control of the material resources of the community are so distributed as to best to subserve the common good, article number 39, clause B. Prevention of concentration of wealth in fewer hands, article number 39, clause C. The objective of article number 39B and 39C is economic justice. Equal pay for equal work for both men and women, article number 39D. The state to direct its policy towards securing that the strength and health of the workers, men and women, and the tender age of children are not abused, and that citizens are not forced by the economic necessity to enter a vocation not suitable to their age or strength, article number 39E. The example of this is minimum age requirement for the particular job. The second one is retirement age of the employees are fixed, and the third one is Prohibition and Regulation Act. Now we are going to discuss about the seventh point, the state to direct its policy towards securing that the children are given opportunities and facilities to develop in the healthy manner and in the condition of freedom and dignity, and the childhood and the youth are protected against exploitation and against moral and material abandonment. Article number 39, clause F. Equal justice and free legal aid, article number 39A, added by the 42nd Amendment Act 1976 through NALSA. We are going to discuss it in further videos. Right to work, to education, and to public assistance in certain cases like unemployment, old age, sickness, and disability, article number 41. Example: Manrega, old age pension scheme, adult education, special provisions for the people with disability. These all are mentioned in the article number 41. Provision for just and humane condition of work, including maternity relief, article number 42. Living wages for the workers, article number 43. Participation of workers in the management of the industries, article number 43, clause A. It is added by the 42nd Amendment Act. The provision for early childhood care and education of children below the age of 6 years. 6 years. Article number 45. Example, Anganwadi, free vaccination scheme, which is also known as Mission Indradhanush. Now we are going to proceed with the Gandhian principle. First is Organization of Village Panchayats, Article number 40. The promotion of educational and economic interests of scheduled castes and scheduled tribe and other weaker sections, Article number 46, which is also known as Antyodaya and Sarvodaya. Promotion of cottage industry, Article number 43. Promotion of cooperative society, Article number 43, Clause B, added by the 97th Amendment Act 2011. Prohibition of the consumption of intoxicating drinks and of drugs which are injurious to health except for the medicinal purpose, Article number 47. Prohibition of slaughter of cows and other milch and draught cattle, Article number 48. Now we are going to discuss about the last classification, which is the Western liberal principle. First is uniform civil code for the citizens, Article number 44. Second, the duty of the state to raise the level of nutrition and the standard of living and to improve the public health, Article number 47. Protection and improvement of environment and safeguarding of forest and wildlife, Article number 48, Clause A, added by the 42nd Amendment Act, like Project Tiger and establishment of sanctuary and national park. Fourth one, the protection of monuments, places and objects of national importance, Article number 49. Fifth one, the separation of judiciary from executives, Article number 50. And the last one, promotion of international peace and security. With this, I am concluding my video. Thank you.